Before we get into the video, I just wanted to quickly introduce myself. My name is Rick. I'm a aspiring game developer, currently a college sophomore, and this is like a combination or like culmination of a bunch of videos I recorded for a video game project I just got bored and started working on over my winter break from college. So these videos were a lot of fun to record, and I just kind of wanted to show them off just to let other people know what I've been working on. Hope you enjoy. Hello, how's it going? This is me documenting my work on this new project. That's kind of like a mix between Stardew Valley and Moonlighter. So all I've got currently is this tomato, which is supposed to be the player that moves around. You know, he does the typical things. He can get stopped by objects, obviously. And so what I'm currently about to work on is like getting him to interact with like things on the left and right. All I have is movement for the most part, and then you can do little dashes or dodge rolls. We'll see if I even end up implementing those, but it's kind of cool. Collides how you expect it to, and then I have a sprint toggle, so he's currently walking. You can't see it, obviously, because no animations, but if I click shift, he now moves faster, shift again, slower, shift, faster, and so on and so forth. So that's what I got so far. We'll see how the development of this changes. I just figured I'd document it for the first time because I like watching devlogs and I think they're fun, and I think it'd be kind of cool to make my own. Goodbye. Okay, so what I just did is I did a simple like script with Visual Studio to just let the player interact with things. So I actually don't remember if I set a keybind for it, but if we go to the input system, pull up the custom input, we can take a look at the interact. Okay, so it looks like I left it on left mouse button, and then I believe that's like the A button on a gamepad. So if I come in here now, it should be able to just like, once I click the left mouse, it should debug. Yeah, down here, trying to interact. So I don't have like the check to see where you're trying to interact yet, but that's gonna be the next thing. Okay, what's up, folks? It's Future Rick. I'm saving you a big long yap session about me coding the interaction system, so I'll let Past Rick tell you about it. See ya. Okay, so what I got here is we got a simple interaction script, right? And so this gets the player's direction and it determines which like direction the player is going to try and interact with something. So if you're facing right, it's going to do like the one space in front of you directly. This one here, this is the function that's going to get called whenever you press like A or something to interact with like a chest. So it's gonna determine where it wants to look, and it's gonna do a raycast on the layer mask that's interactable, which is set somewhere else. But basically, if you give these objects the interactable like attribute, it'll let you like do stuff with them. So up here, I made like an interface which just lets you tack on a function to any script that basically when you click it on an object, it'll just be like, oh, all right, cool. So like here, we'll do something like, instead of just saying out the name of the object, you would just do the object, like call the interaction function, like do what it's supposed to do. So like if it's a chest, you open up the menu, but if not, it doesn't do anything. So let's go over to the game view and show you what that looks like. Okay, so here we are in the game view. We got our good old tomato, can't beat him. So we're going to be walking up to this wall. The wall has, here, I'll just show you over here. The wall has the interactable layer mask up here, and then it's got a box collider kind of catch the raycast. So if I'm moving around and I just click, I'm left clicking right now. Nothing's found. Like you can't really see the direction of where it's trying to check, but right now that I'm moving right, it's going to check the right thing. So we get up close to the box, click it, and then you'll see down here the object did hit the wall. If I turn around, it's not going to because now I'm facing the left. You can't really see it, but up, nothing, down, nothing, right, check, which is exactly how we want it to be. So now like the next step would be doing something with this box here. And when we get like tools and stuff, they'll modify like the background tile map. But for objects and stuff, we can interact, maybe craft, something like that. So that's what we got so far. Okay, I'm here with another little update on good old farm game. So I've got a simple system going on right here for an inventory that I put together. I remember because I think I've watched an inventory tutorial like 20 times. So I have the systems in place for like the items and stuff. Just a simple like scriptable object. If I unlock the inspector, you can see like tomato. this is a consumable. You can like heal items with them and stuff, and they all derive from like the same class, but this is like seeds. So for example, if I do tomato seeds, and then we give it the sprite of like one of these things, I guess. Wheat seeds, it doesn't really matter. But if I go back to it and so what I currently have set up is, it's not like obviously very practical, but I have it so that it's going to fill all these slots on the screen with an item in this like one function I have that updates the slot. So this can be like modified later. But when I play, it updates and fills the entire hotbar with the item. So you'll see here it fills with the same tomato picture that the player is. So obviously you can't go behind it yet, and it doesn't scroll with the character yet. But as you can see, the systems are in place. And if I go back to overwrite that default item that I'm using to test, and I think this would be the tomato seeds. Yeah. So if we do this one, you'll see the sprite updates with the tomato seeds rather than just the tomato. So let me see if that works. Yep. There you go. Not the most amazing art, clearly, but it works nonetheless. And the quantity, just set it to 5 somewhere in the script. But the item systems are in place. The items are all different scripts. They're all like derived classes from this overlying item class here. So real simple stuff, but makes up for a good system that can be used later. And when the player holds the items and stuff, it'll be able to check what kind of item it's holding and then do what it needs to do accordingly when you left click or press a button with it in your hand. Okay, so what I got now is a very simple like input for selecting the items. So as you'll see, the scene you start up, you get your guy, got your little tomato. You can still do all the movement stuff, all that. But now I have it so where you can select the like independent items. So it doesn't really show up in script, but or not show up in script, but show up visually. But this like tells the player what held item they have. It updates the hotbar to have that little circle. So currently I have it with button presses. So like I'm clicking the left and right bumpers on a controller, and I don't know why I'm having some issues with like the mouse scroll wheel, which is another thing I wanted to do. But I guess temporarily I'll update it to like the keys of the keyboard. But right now it works pretty well. You can also hold down, so like this is me holding down, and as you see it loops to the other side, and that goes both ways if I hold it down. And then you could just independently press between the two buttons, which is cool. So I've never really had controller input before, and it's very satisfying to just like pick up like not a keyboard to play my own games I'm making. So this has been pretty cool. Up next, I think after I kind of like finish off this like hotbar, I'll have to do like the inventory. As you can see, there's like some seeds in there currently, but I have to figure out how to populate the player's inventory, at least in the editor for now. Get him some tools, and then we'll start modifying the tile map and stuff, and interacting with like crop game objects and stuff like that. So that's what I got so far. Okay, so for after some time, I got the keyboard stuff figured out. It was weird. I kind of had to do some like finagling to get it to work. So still got our good old shoulder bumpers. This is using the controller, so moving them around while using the inventory at the same time. As you see, you can hold it, it'll go a little bit faster, or you can individually click it, as I'm sure you can hear. But what I just added was keys. So I'm going to switch to the keyboard now. If I press the 1 key, it'll go to 1. If I go to 2, 3, 4, 5, and you can like jump around to each individual one. And then 0 would be 10, or I guess the 9th index. So that's kind of neat. And it took me a while to figure out, but I also got the scroll wheel working. So if we're sitting here at the middle, if I scroll up, you can go really quick through them. So I put a little cooldown. It doesn't go like as fast as you could possibly go, but that's still pretty fast. Like, this is me scrolling at like max speed. So if you want to quickly get to your items, you could definitely do that too. I'm sure most people will probably use the scroll, so depending on how that like changes, I'll make the speed faster or slower depending on what people think. But yeah, so that took a surprising amount of time for me to figure out the scroll. Okay, I got some pretty cool stuff. I feel like it's pretty neat. I asked good old ChatGPT for some help on this one. So I just made, I wish I could show Visual Studio with the way that the thing records, but what I did basically is I gave the player like a default starting like a couple arrays to look up some item indexes, and I made this item database scriptable objects that does nothing more than just like hold the indexes. So like if we go to the default item, it just has this stuff on it. Let me see if I can get back to that just by clicking on the, I want to find it in the folder. Okay, well I guess it's not gonna work. Whatever. This is what it looks like. So it can clear out all the empty objects like this, which is cool, and assign them their items. So currently I only have these like 2 objects actually made, but as you can see, it works with like different quantities and stuff, and the seeds have 5, the thing has that. So let me show you what that looks like in Visual Studio right now. Okay, so here's the Visual Studio side of it. So the game manager will like wake up and make this item lookup script. Basically, you give it the database of items, which is a scriptable object, and then it kind of puts them into this dictionary. And then whenever you need to grab an item or need reference to it, so like for example, I just did it like this when I initialize a script with some indexes, it'll just pull it from the database and be like, oh, that's the item you wanted, here you go. Which is really cool, because now I can just call this instead of needing like references to the items themselves, like in the script. So this is like, I mean, it feels so simple, but it works. It works really well. You just have to make the scriptable object with the objects in it, and then give them IDs. Like it pulls the ID from the inventory's item. So like here, I have item ID 1 and 2, which is the tomato seeds, and then the tomato itself, and then how many of them there are. So this will change later. I'll find a better way to like instantiate the inventory. But like, it's super simple. It's so easy. It's just look up the item, populate it, and then update the hotbar for it, and it works great. So that's really cool. Input system, inventory system works pretty well. And I didn't really use many tutorials for that because I've tried doing this so many different times. I think I've just kind of picked up how to do it. The item lookup thing is totally cool though. I didn't code any of this, but maybe I'll learn how to do. Like, I mean, it makes sense. It's pretty intuitive. You make a dictionary, fill it with the new stuff, and then this is the function to pull them out. But it's really cool, and as you can see, it works previously, which feels pretty damn neat. So I think I got to make a couple more items, give them some uses, and then it'll be a nice little. Okay, so the item lookup script and inventory stuff is pretty much working. Here's our little item database that kind of holds on to the items, as you'll see down here. These are just items, scriptable objects that have their own stuff. So these get put into the item database here, which gets put into the game manager up here, which basically tells the item lookup script what to do and like what items to put and what like IDs are associated with what. So this is really cool because as you'll see from the script, you initialize a couple integers and it'll pull the items without needing references to them directly. The item lookup script is really cool. So as you can see, we got item ID 1 and item ID 2 for the seeds and the tomato itself. And then if we come back to it, you'll see I don't have any, and even in the script for interactable, you would see there's no references I had to do to those scriptable objects. It just uses the lookup system from this item database. So it may be time consuming and tedious to add several items with these IDs, but it's really, really cool. So like once you put them in the database, you give them an ID, they can be found from anywhere in script. You don't have to have a reference to the lookup. You just say item lookup dot find this item, basically, and it works, which is really cool. So I thought it'd be a lot more hard to implement, but with the good graces of good old ChatGPT, I was able to integrate it pretty quickly. So I think next up, just got to give these items some like purposes, which would be in like the player interaction script, and then it'll be working pretty good for like a pretty simple demo of like what I've been up to. Okay, one more thing I got going on here. So I just made this like beefed up the interaction function basically. So this is the same thing that says if you use like a game object in the world, if you click on it or you're near it, you'll use it. But what I just added is if you don't find anything, like basically if you don't trigger this return statement here, it's gonna come here and say, all right, well, try to use the item that's in your hand. So in like Stardew Valley, if you click on a chest, you use A, I think, in console. And if you want to use a item in your hand, like a consumable, you also use A. So if you don't find anything, try here to use something. So we come down to this function, use item in hand. And so what this basically says is don't try to access an item out of the bounds. This basically says if there's actually an item there, check if it exists, check if the item in the item inventory thing exists, and if you have enough things to use it. Basically, if you have 0 of it, obviously you can't use it. So right here, you're going to get the reference to the item, and then the only thing I have set up currently is a consumable, where if you have a consumable, you're going to say that you consumed it, and you're going to use one of them. So this here basically says if there's none left, clear the inventory, and then update the hotbar down here will basically take care of how many we have in the hand and how many are like moving around. So let's go ahead and hop over to game view and see what that actually looks like. Okay, here we are back in the game view, and then we're going to go ahead and hit play, and we'll see that our inventory starts up all good and stuff. But what we want to do is we want to go ahead and try to use those items now. So as you can see, we still have all of our nice little changing and stuff. And now if I try to click on the seeds, it calls the function, but nothing actually happens because the seeds are marked as seeds, not a consumable. But this tomato here is something like you could eat in the game. And if you go ahead and click left click, bang, you eat the tomato, as you can see, consuming tomato. And another thing is if we go up to this wall here, I think is what I have it called, and you try to interact with it, it's going to take precedence and interact with that rather than consuming the item in your hand. So if I go ahead and click left click, it should say interacting with. Bang. So it doesn't eat our tomato even though I click the same button. And now I can go ahead and eat the rest of these, just kind of consuming 10 straight tomatoes. And when I get to the last one, it'll click and update the tomato. Now we no longer have anything in our hand, so if I try to click, it calls the function, but nothing happens. So this is exactly what we want to happen. So you can use the items, they can do stuff. Obviously, they're not programmed to have any efficiency or like any kind of purpose currently. But once I get that in, it'll be an easy working system. And depending on how I'll change it around, whether I want to have it in the same place that you interact with game objects, I don't know about that, but currently it works as intended, which is really cool. And if you click on empty slots, nothing happens. You just call the function, but it's safeguarded against like null items in the hand, which is wonderful. So super cool, feeling confident in my ability to continue working on this. So that's feeling nice. Okay, so another thing I just got put in is a little system for a pickaxe to break something. So this could be used on like rocks or little things you spawn in the scene view. But as you see, we got our good old tomato moving around on the Pro Controller. So you can go through the items, obviously, just like before. This tool, it'll say using tool if you're going to use it on something that can actually use it. You can still eat the tomatoes and stuff, but if you go up, press the tool button. I remember which one I made it. Oh, there you go. Rock has been hit. So the facing direction is what I was missing there. So it's been hit. I'll press it one more time, and then it destroys after a while, which is pretty dang cool because all I did was give the pickaxe item type, and then the script checks for it. So let me see if I can go to it. I mean, you can kind of see it here. It gets its own tool type, which is a new enum. And in the script, it just checks what tool type it has, and then uses it based on what the script that you're messing with does. So this game object here that I called wall, I put this little script called rock that has an interface on it that lets you break it apart. So you can slap the breakable interface on anything, and it'll just follow the same behavior. So as long as your tool can interact and break something, it'll just break it eventually, which is cool. And that can be applied with like different things like can be chopped, X, Y, and Z. Okay, hello, Future Rick is back. This like coding speedrun right here is depicting my like process of programming the primary like systems for adding items to the inventory. So basically, if you add an item, it's gonna look to the next index and see if there's any instances of the item you're trying to add in your current inventory. And if there is, it's going to be like, all right, we'll find it, put one there. And if not, find the next empty space. And if it's full, don't do anything. So yeah, I figured I'd give you the brief version because my former self
went on and on and on talking about it, and back in the game view he does as well. So I'm gonna just let him talk a little bit because I think he explains it better than I will.
Okay, after a lot of debugging and a lot of silly errors like using the wrong index and like Stack Overflows and stuff, I think I've got it. So tomatoes, I changed their max stack to 10 and the wheat to 50. So if I go ahead and add up some tomatoes, we get to our 10th one. But if I try to add an 11th one, bang, it moves to the next index, which is great. And it continues to add from that index until, once again, it needs to add. So if I go to the wheat seeds now, it's going to add 5 at a time. It's going to go 30, 35, 40, 45. And the importance of this one is when it adds to 55, it's going to move 5 over, not just like 1. So just like that. That seems to work perfectly. And that's taken me a little too long to do. A lot of careless errors that has caused that. But once we get here, let's say I just fill up a tomato here. Let's fill this one. And then if I put one at the end, I'm not sure how the behavior works if I can't add it. I'm pretty sure I put in a debug.log that says you can't do it, but the add item function shouldn't be called if the inventory is full. So the inventory currently has a size of 10. So if I try to do it now, so yeah, so the debug.log got called, but nothing actually happened. So if I go over here, clear out the tomato, I can't remember, did I put in the, yeah, okay, cool. So what about wheat seeds? Yep. So it looks like everything works exactly as intended. So our tomatoes get consumed, and if I want, I'll go ahead and consume these ones too. Get rid of these, and I can add some more. Let's add some seeds to the next thing. Oh, interesting. Oh, well, yeah, it's supposed to stack on the seeds you already have. So if it's full on all of them, it should add to that 4th index. I get an error from that? I don't know where this is coming from. Maybe it's because of the start index. I'll have to look into that, but if I continue to do that, it seems fine. It keeps saying that it's trying to access something it's not supposed to, though, which is kind of interesting. Okay, and now nothing can be added. So seems to be working as intended, which is pretty dang cool. It took me a little too long to do, but our pickaxe has functionality. We can now add items to, we can now add items to the thing. Is my pickaxe, oh, I'm not using the right key, oops. So yeah, we can break apart the walls and stuff. So yeah, it seems to be going pretty well. We got to get some functionality to some of these, but the use cases and the inventory seems to be working. At least for this 10 item hotbar. The hotbar only shows the first 10 items in the inventory, but I'll make it so that there's like an extended inventory space actually in like a UI element. Because I have the support to have the inventory be more than 10 items, but basically if an item is within the first 10, it'll update the hotbar accordingly, which is pretty dang cool. So yeah, pretty happy with this. Didn't use tutorials to look up the later half of adding. My code's probably a little jank, and that's probably why it took me so long to fix it. But it seems to work quickly enough to where it doesn't matter to me. So pretty happy about that.
All right, how's it going? I'm back. This montage is me making up the item pickup scripts. So basically, things will drop and the items have to hover back to you. And that's pretty much what this is. Like, it'll go into your inventory when it gets close enough.
So I got a cute little system here for picking up items. So this here is this is a tomato, but I have it set to the seeds. The tomato is just like a default placeholder art I've used for everything. So as you'll see, this item pickup will be spawned by like rocks and stuff and things like crops that harvest things. So what we want it to do is when I get close to it, I want it to come and try to fill the inventory with it. So if I come here, it's going to chase after me. I can slightly outrun it just to make sure it doesn't come get me. And then when I'm out of the radius, it won't chase. But when I get close back in, it'll come down and add it to the inventory, which is exactly what we want it to do. So that's pretty cool. truthfully, I'm just delaying like working on the farming system because time maps are daunting. But seeing that this works is really cool. So like now, if I go make one of those rocks and have it break and like instantiate some stuff, it would be pretty cool. Because then I'll just be able to add it straight to the inventory based on what I have. So it's been really working pretty well, I would say, so far. Good progress. Okay, here is the like inventory drop system. So if you have the item in your hand, you put it down, it'll stay there. And it has a little grace period. It won't go straight to you when you first drop it down, but the second you like leave its radius and come back in, it'll start coming back to you. So what's cool is this like wasn't terribly hard to set up, truthfully. And like the little follow mechanic where once you get close to it again, it starts coming back to you. It's pretty easy. Like it just kind of, it took a couple lines of code, nothing too crazy. And then like I could use this tool here with the pickaxe, and if I break it apart, that's fine. Let's say I just want to do like 2 hits on this thing, right? And then I drop the pickaxe right here, and then drop these, eat a couple of these. I can't touch it anymore. You know, if I go back to this slot, there's no pickaxe there. But if I pick up the pickaxe again and do that last hit, boom, done. And it works pretty flawlessly, like all things considered. One thing I need to consider doing is like when the items get close to another item drop, you can like have them clump up together, which I can't imagine would be too difficult. So maybe I'll add that in the future, but we'll have to see. But yeah. Okay, so I'm working on crop logic here. This crop object will spawn on top of like a tilled and like planted tile. So what it'll do is it'll just kind of like when it gets the signal, it'll just be on top of like a tilled tile that has been like marked to say that it has a crop there. So what I currently have is a constructor, and I added some requirements to the seeds. This here will so like here where we'll have like some sprites that'll change. So like when you're a little seed, when you first planted first, when you update the like growth stage, we'll see like how many days it needs to take to get to that point. So when the crop kind of, I added this, the game manager now has like an event system that can like send out a signal for all plants to like kind of update. So like you call the day to pass, and then certain objects like maybe furnaces or like crafting things that may take time or upgrades will kind of listen for this too.
Okay, this main script right here is basically the entire thing that handles all the crops growing, planting, watering, all of it. It's based on a tile map grid system, and so it basically checks the tile map to see whether or not there's something there, and if there isn't, it allows it to plant, and then you can water it either with a game manager, watering can, all that, and once it's harvestable, you can pluck it. That's the plant script.
Okay, I think I finally got it working with the crop. So I got the object in here. It's currently initialized to just have the tomato seed object. So you'll see it holds it here. I don't have any like systems to like use the player interaction to water it, so I'll just do it in the expector. But as you can see, that green box here turn into the seeds right here, which signifies where the object is. And so what's cool is in the game manager, I have the like time passing script, and so it sends out the signal or publishes the like event that says, "Hey, anybody listening to this event, come like do your thing when you hear this noise," basically. So if I water it over here and press G, which is how I'm going to pass the time, you'll see that the plant, it grows forward. So this is the game manager sending out the signal. This is the crop catching it. This is the crop going, "Oh, I'm watered. I can get like I can grow." So like if I press G right now, when the water, it's not watered anymore because the day passed, it's not going to do anything. It's gonna like the crop is going to catch that it's passing, but it's not gonna grow because it's not watered. So if I water it again and then do it, it'll advance the stage. And then the final stage I have to take 2 days, and that's defined by the tomato seeds. So if I water it again and go, all right, G, if I'm sorry, I gotta click in G, it'll grow the crop one more. But you'll notice that the sprite didn't change. Now on this final like growth day, so this will be like our 4th day growing it, you'll see it updates to the final sprite and then is now harvestable, which is done. So plant's now harvestable, the booleans checked true, and if I had the logic set up, I could just walk up to this crop here and harvest it. So I'm not too far off from that. If I just use it and put it straight into the inventory, like if it can be, like if I left click on it the same way, I can break down these rocks with that. It would be the same way. I would either put it directly into the player's inventory if they have space, otherwise just drop it on the ground, basically. So that's I'm pretty happy with this. We now just need a way to like spawn these with the seed objects like this here, to get, you know, the loop finished basically for the farming side. And then stuff like this, like the event system is really cool. I think that's my favorite thing that I've learned so far with the crop stuff. And we'll also have like objects get destroyed. Like if this is a crop or a game object that is destroyable and I left click it, I'll just destroy it. And it won't drop anything, just kind of like how a Stardew Valley, you can just break crops if you feel like it. So that's pretty neat. I'm pretty happy with this so far. A lot more progress. I've tried to do farming games in the past, but it hasn't exactly like done much. But this is coming along quite nicely. So I'm pretty happy.
Okay, this script right here handles the primary like harvesting techniques. So in the previous little clip, I said that it harvests, but this is actually where that is actually implemented. So basically, if it's watered, it grows over the couple days. You'll be able to pick it up and add the thing directly to your inventory. And took a little bit longer than I expected to get this to work, but it worked.
Okay, so now I got the plant yield kind of working. So if I go back, this crop object right here, I know it's hard to see at the moment. If we're going to go ahead and just do the water steps, we should probably just like put in a testing thing that waters all the plants. If we get it to fully harvested, just like how we interacted with the stones earlier, like this, we can now interact with the plant just by left clicking on it. And this, it doesn't matter for anything, but watch the tomatoes. So this doesn't look like a tomato plant right now, but it's marked as tomato seeds. So if I go ahead and left click it, it adds one to it. It sees that it was harvestable, and now the object's gone. And so that's going to need to like update something on a tile map. But what's cool is now that's all I needed. I can spawn tons of these plants and then execute the cycle for it. And then it harvests, gives you the stuff you need. And I'll set up like multi-yield crops eventually, but that'll probably take some time before I get there. Okay, this is quite a long time after the last update I did, but I got a lot of like very jank code put down to make the tile map work with all the tools, planting seeds, growing them, and everything. So the way I ended up doing it is probably really not good. Basically, it checks to see what actual tile there, which is really lazy currently. I just actually have like a predetermined set. So basically, if it's the default tile and the hoe sees it, it'll switch it to this one. And if it's this one and the watering can sees it, it'll switch it to the second one, which is not great, truthfully. I'll fix it eventually, but the systems are definitely there. Like, once again, hoe, watering can, seeds, and boom, you got your crop object. And so we'll pass the time. Since it's already watered, it's gonna like go ahead, but if I'll just make a piece up here that's not watered. So I put the seeds down and then I click grow. Only the one that's watered will grow. Only the tile that was watered will grow. So I can water this now, this one here, if I do that. And now, let me water this one again. And then that, and then grow. This one's finally done. And then we'll grow this one last time. So that doesn't seem like a lot, but it took like absolutely forever to like do some shenanigans with the tile map and everything. Because like if I move one of those like predetermined tiles in the inspector like here, like if these were any different, this whole thing would break and it wouldn't look right. I need to work with like making the tile map modification a little less jank, but I mean it works. It works pretty well for what it needs to do. The inventory system works perfectly, or at least as much as it can, and it also works on controller too. So feeling good. That's kind of where I'm gonna stop with this for now. I think I'm gonna put some more time into making it. I was gonna say look better, but these are the main like farming systems. Like at this point, it's done with the functionality, the like basic things I need. Time passage, it'll be called when there's like a day and night system. You can get items, they can have values. You can pull up anything. Like I can make an item prefab and some seeds, and it'll work seamlessly. I won't have to rewrite new things for each seeds, which is awesome. And then once all that gets done, or like once I feel like working on the other stuff, um, it'll be a lot easier. Like this is quite fluid in comparison to a lot of my other projects that I've done trying to do this. So I'm pretty happy. The sprites definitely aren't great, obviously, but uh, nothing wrong with our little tomato character, right? So that's what I got.
If you made it this far to the end of the video, thank you so much for watching. This has been basically a compilation of like tons of little clips I recorded of myself working on this project over my past winter break from school. And so I just kind of wanted to put it out here just so that other people could see it and so I can kind of keep committed to myself to like work on projects like this in the future. And so yeah, this is step one. Look forward to more videos in the future in the case where I continue to work on this, and hopefully I do. So thank you for watching. See ya.